by the way, can we talk about the Houston Texans? What are they doing? Like, it just seems like, hey, our offensive line was god-awful last year. Let's just make it worse. Like, it doesn't get better getting rid of Laremy Tunsil. Like, I love that move for the Commanders. What are the Texans doing? They're leaving CJ Stroud out there to dry.
Number one, they know they're going to have to sign Stroud to an extension. So I think monetarily, they're going to sign Stroud to an extension after year 3.
What? So they're going to have him laid up in the hospital? So
no, but I mean,
I'm just what?
Laramie did not have his best season. Okay, the left side of their line was not good last year. Okay, and fine. I will agree, Laramie. And I even made the joke about, X is broken, and it's so broken now that it's starting to tell me that the Texans traded Laremy Tunsil. I made that joke, but at the same time, I'm here, I'm in Houston. I know 2024 was not a banner year for him. And another thing, too, I probably mentioned it on the show in the past. I feel like every offseason, other than after Stroud's rookie year, for years, every offseason, I'm hearing they might be willing to trade Laremy Tunsil. Like, it was always like, is he a culture fit? Is he as coachable as he needs to be? Does he show up and work hard every single day? Like, there were always all these questions about Laramie. And I'm like, when is this ever going to turn a corner? I thought it did after the first year of CJ Stroud. I was like, okay, he's locked in now. But I think as far as salary, production, the fact that D'Amico Ryans, when they're talking about, the team leaders and all these things, and he was a captain, D'Amico Ryans didn't really ever say much about Laremy Tunsil, which is a shocker, right? You would think ex-player definitely loves to shout out his guys, was never really shouting out Laremy Tunsil ever.
And that's I'm like, fine, that's but you need somebody to play left tackle.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I am nervous for CJ Stroud. Too. Absolutely. I totally get where you're coming from. I am breathless with anticipation to see how exactly they're going to remedy
this. There's a plan.
But it speaks, y'all, it speaks to the expectations we had. That, I mean, in the minds of many, Houston last year was meh, right? And they were 10-7 last year. Like, they're picking 25th in the draft. They were 10-7. So I do think that sometimes we got to pull back a little bit. Like, the Texans went from being so bad to being actually really good in first year of CJ. The second year, I think we wanted them to be Herculean. Like, they're still a 10-win football team trying to figure out how to better maximize what they have.
They'll want a playoff game too.
No, they lost Tank Dell to an injury. They lost Stephon Diggs to an injury, right? Joe Mixon went down early in the year. They had everything go sideways on them. But let's be real. It was a really, really messy. You fired Bobby Slowick, who was just at the top of head coaching lists. Your OC, people have thought, if you'd asked me a year ago, where's Slowick going to be, in March of 2025, someone else's head coach. Right. Yeah. I would have said not on the Texans because he took a job. Right. And he's fired. And so there's that. There's you're dumping elements of your offensive line, including an all-pro level tackle. That just goes to show you there's stuff going on inside that organization that we're probably not all fully understanding. And I think it is culture related. I think it is work related. I truly believe D'Amico Ryans looked at that situation, the problems they were having repetitively, particularly with the offensive line last year, and then schematically, some of the limitations that they had, especially after they lost Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. I think D'Amico Ryans is like, we need change. Like, I don't like the way the direction this is going, and he's going to hire who he's going to be comfortable with, which is how you get Slowick going out the door.
Frank's like, man.
I get it. I guess the counter argument to what I'm saying is, oh my God, how could the Texans dismantle their offensive line? The offensive line was terrible. Like, what are you losing?
50, how many sacks? What is it, 51 sacks? Well, he sacked 51 times.
It should have been more than that. Like, Stroud was under pressure. Look, I love CJ Stroud. I think he's a wonderful player. So maybe I'm just making excuses for him. But I chalk up most of his struggles last year to the fact that the offensive line could not block.
I agree.
I agree. Absolutely. But I just wonder, okay, that's fine. You got rid of a couple linemen. You got rid of your offensive coordinator. What's the plan? How do you fix it? Like, I guess I'm a little impatient that way just because I want to see how the Texans are going to support CJ Stroud. And I don't have the answer to that right now.
If you had asked me last year, what the hell's going on with the Buffalo Bills? I was telling you, like, I don't know, man. It might be over. Like I was like, I don't understand.
Right.
Like
I remember that.
it was a total. It's chaos, and Sean McDermott's going to get fired, and Josh Allen's going to hit a brick wall, and he doesn't have anybody to throw to, and all these different things. And then by the time the season got around, they pulled it together because they're a good organization. That's the challenge right now for the Texans.
I don't know if Texans are a good organization.
That's what I'm saying. You have to showcase
okay.
that now.
Yeah,
That's what this offseason's about. You're making massive changes. We're all doubting you. Now let's see if you can actually pull it together when it looks like there's an element of chaos and messiness, which there clearly is or was.
Can I'll just tell everybody to take a drink every time I say this for the rest of the year because I say it all the time. But think about what you've talked about. You just mentioned CJ Stroud and how his offensive line failed him. We've talked about Sam Darnold and how we're worried about whether or not that offensive line is going to be good enough. We've talked about the Bears and the fact that they've been aggressive in addressing the offensive line. The Vikings spent a bunch of money to get better on the interior offensive line. Like this is the bi-weekly reminder, I think, to everybody. Like I don't think there are 32 great left tackles, guards, centers in the NFL. There just aren't. Go ahead, Zero.
And Fitz, what's crazy about this is whenever you talk to teams about their primary complaint about what's happening to football at the collegiate level, it's that they're like, we don't ever get ready offensive line anymore. They're like none of them. So many of these guys don't know how to play with their hand on the ground, mauling. Like it's such a work in progress. And I have had so many organizations tell me that the Philadelphia Eagles should take Jeff Stoutland, weigh him, and then pay him in that weight in diamonds because that's what he's worth. like that is how I had an AFC GM who was like, you have no idea the edge the Eagles have with him. Like they're like, it's unbelievable the edge. They're like, they have a guy who can create offensive linemen. Which is why I say them getting Kenyon Green.
Becton was a great example of that.
Becton was a wreck.
100%.
And then he goes there, and next thing you know, you're like, what the hell? This guy's he's a good really player now.
Year,
And it's like, it's not like that talent didn't exist with the Jets, right? And this is what they do. They bring guys in, they coach them up, and Stoutland's got the blueprint. And when you hear other organizations,
it's like Skarnecchia over the Patriots dynasty. He was the secret to the Patriots dynasty. Like when you have a great offensive line coach, like you could go places in the NFL.
Which is again when we're doing our draft broadcast that we're willing into existence, and Will Campbell is taken, or any of these tackles are taken. And you're bored with the pick because you can't go to social media and yell about a wide receiver or quarterback or whatever it is you want.
Jersey that night.
Like I realize you're not going to run out and buy that jersey, but you should. Like if your team takes a fat guy, you should grab a little thing of confetti and just throw it in the air. Personal one-man confetti party for the fat guys.
I remember the draft when the Bengals passed on Penei Sewell. They took Jamar Chase, right? And then the Lions took Jamar Chase. The Lions took Penei Sewell, and it was like, he's really good. It's a really good offensive lineman from Oregon. Like, this is a really good player. And you're like, that changed so much about what the Lions were doing on their offensive line to have a guy of that level. Now, granted, those guys aren't available.
What happened to that
always.
Jamar Chase guy, though?
He turned out to be pretty good. Think about that. Like, what a decision. You're sitting there going, do we take Jamar Chase? Do we take Penei Sewell? You could have probably done either and been great. Yeah, you're totally fine. Either's a perennial All-Pro. Either's the best at their, near the best at their position. They're in the conversation. So, but yeah, I mean, that fits. It's a great reminder that if you have a coach who can actually turn, middling or struggling or talented players coming from college who just don't know how to play offensive, football on the line at the NFL level, you pay that coach, you keep them forever, you keep teams away from them forever, and you sink as much as you can in terms of draft assets. I think you sink into the offensive line from the top of the draft to the bottom of the draft, constantly searching for whatever remedy you can find.
Frank's age-old point, coaching staffs are not salary cap limited. Like at this point, if I see an offensive line coach in the NFL that I think is better than everybody, I'll go hand him $20 million. I don't care. I'm worth billions. I'll just hand him, I'll outpay him. That's one thing.